Alright, this is going to be a tutorial for the dive mechanic in Wave Race 64. It's a very important mechanic to understand if you're going to compete for records on Marine Fortress or Twilight City. So something important to note about the dive mechanic is after you go off a wave and you hit the water's surface again, if the bottom of your craft is parallel or close to parallel with the angle of the wave that you're landing on, your momentum will be transferred forward, like just happened there. So you just keep all that momentum and it just goes forward and it transfers into forward momentum. But if you alter your nose angle so that it's perpendicular to the angle that the wave is at, you're hitting. If it's perpendicular, i.e. if it's completely opposite, all that momentum gets transferred into a force that pushes you under the surface of the water. And that's the dive mechanic. So I used it there, I went underneath the water a little bit. And you can do that to varying degrees. If you do it just a little bit, then you'll just go a little bit under the water. And that's used in Twilight City to get under the wall, and I'll show that a little bit later. But there's two main types of application of this dive mechanic. The first one is the long dive. So the long dive is where you get as much momentum as possible transferred into that downward movement. And that means going all the way to both input gates to cause you to go down under the water as much as possible. And in this level, Marine Fortress, a long dive is used to get underneath this wall here. I missed the cycle there. I'm going to try it again to show you. You can also use this on waves just about everywhere in order to minimize the amount of airtime you get. So when I went underneath there, I had to go all the way down and then all the way up. And that's what's referred to as a long dive, because you spend a long time underneath the water. And a short dive is where you just do a little bit of down and up movement in order to put a little bit of just only a little bit of momentum downwards, pushing you down underneath the water. And in Twilight City, you can use it to go underneath the wall like that. I just barely went underneath the wave's surface. And I'll show you that again because it happened really fast. You can just barely go under the water's surface, and if you fail it, you run into the wall. You can use a long dive in application here, but because you're only putting a little bit of the momentum that you need into pushing your character under the water, you barely slow down when going underneath the wall. This is a trade-off because it's very difficult to get. But see, a long dive through there works as well, but it reduced my speed to like 110 or like even lower than that, 109. And that's a significant amount of speed loss on this level, and you're not going to be able to compete unless you do that fast dive on all 3 laps. I think the 3rd lap, if you're on world record pace, you have to do a long dive. but short dives like that are essential. And I guess advice for how to do it, hey dude, a lot of it's just practice, but if you understand a little bit more about the direction that your nose is pointed, it can help a bit in terms of getting you more consistent. You can go for the long dive there if you want, and really just diving is all about practice, but you really have to understand that the longer that you push up and down, the more force gets pushed into a vertical movement. It's also important when you're doing that, and you can easily go back left and then up forward like that by accident, and that will, as you can see, turn your character, especially on the down one. So you're going to want to make sure that your thumb is lined up. I find a good way to do this is to have the joint of my thumb and place it right in the center of the controller, and then put the joint of my thumb, this joint, right off of the edge of the joystick, and that allows me to go back and then forward. And you might have to adjust this a little bit based on your hand size, but if you can get a straight line going here, this is going to help you a lot with Wave Race 64 in general, because if you have a consistent way that you're holding your controller, then the adjustments will be consistent for angles on corners. So that goes over the dive mechanic. If you have any more questions, this is quite a difficult thing to do, and it's somewhat complex in the application of the mechanic. So if you have any more questions, leave me a comment in the section down below, and I'll see what I can do to help you master this. Thank you guys for watching, and take care.